Imagine this. Federal officials stepping off a boat onto the windswept rocks of Alcatraz Island, not as tourists, but as government scouts assessing whether to bring back America's most infamous prison. That's exactly what happened this Thursday morning when Attorney General Pam Bondi and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum toured the abandoned cells that once held Al Capone. What they're planning could cost taxpayers up to $2 billion. Let me take you inside this wild story that sounds more like a Hollywood script than actual government policy. This isn't just about reopening an old prison. It's about a massive construction project that would transform one of San Francisco's biggest tourist attractions back into a maximum security fortress. Here's what's really happening. President Trump announced back in May that he wants to convert Alcatraz from a museum that brings in $60 million a year into a federal prison for what he calls America's most ruthless and violent offenders. And now we're learning the shocking details of what this would actually cost. Administration sources told Axios they're looking at 3 different options. The most expensive one? Completely demolish everything on the island, every building, every structure, and build a brand new supermax prison from scratch. Price tag? Over $2 billion. Think about that number for a second. $2 billion. That's more than 30 years' worth of the tourism revenue the island currently generates. The second option would be a scaled-back version, costing about $1 billion, where they'd only use part of the island for the prison. The third option involves bringing in private prison companies to handle the whole thing, though insiders say that's the least likely scenario. But here's where it gets really interesting. One administration official admitted to Axios, "We're still in the early stages. We need a lot more study, a lot more specificity before the president decides, but $2 billion might just be too much money for him." Now you might be wondering, why would anyone want to reopen a prison that was shut down over 60 years ago? Well, Alcatraz has a fascinating history. From 1934 to 1963, it housed some of America's most notorious criminals. Al Capone spent time there. So did George Machine Gun Kelly and the Birdman of Alcatraz, Robert Stroud. But here's the thing. There's a reason they closed it in the first place. Running a prison on an island is insanely expensive. Back in 1959, it cost $10.10 per prisoner per day at Alcatraz, compared to just $3 at a federal prison in Atlanta. Everything had to be brought in by boat: food, water, supplies. They had to ship in nearly 1 million gallons of water every week because the island has no freshwater source. And the salt water? It was eating away at the buildings. The maintenance costs were astronomical. Fast forward to today, and those problems haven't gone away. In fact, they've gotten worse. The buildings have been deteriorating for decades. Environmental regulations are much stricter now, and the cost of construction in the Bay Area? Through the roof. The political reaction has been explosive. Nancy Pelosi, whose district includes Alcatraz, didn't hold back. She called it the Trump administration's stupidest initiative yet and said it's just a distraction tactic. Her exact words? "It should concern us all that clearly the only intellectual resources the administration has drawn upon for this foolish notion are decades-old fictional Hollywood movies." Governor Gavin Newsom's office threw some serious shade, too. A spokesperson said, "Pam Bondi will reopen Alcatraz the same day Trump lets her release the Epstein files. So, never." San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie pointed out something pretty obvious. If the federal government has billions of dollars to spend in San Francisco, maybe use it to keep the streets safe and help the economy recover instead of building a prison. Here's what makes this whole thing even more complicated. To actually reopen Alcatraz as a prison, they'd need Congress to pass legislation. They'd have to transfer jurisdiction from the National Park Service to the Bureau of Prisons. They'd have to override environmental protections and historic preservation requirements. And let's talk about what they'd be giving up. Right now, Alcatraz attracts about 1.6 million visitors every year. It's one of San Francisco's biggest tourist draws. Those visitors spend money on tickets, ferries, hotels, restaurants. The ripple effect through the local economy is huge. But according to one Trump advisor who spoke to Axios, the president isn't thinking about the economics. The advisor said he likes it because it's tough. It's about the symbolism, the image of America's toughest criminals locked away on an inescapable island. Except here's the irony. Alcatraz wasn't actually escape-proof. 36 men made 14 separate escape attempts over the years. Most were caught, some drowned in the freezing bay, but in 1962, 3 inmates might have actually made it. We still don't know for sure. What's really happening here? Well, if you look at Trump's other moves, there's a pattern. Just last week, he toured a new detention facility in Florida. They're calling Alligator Alcatraz, a temporary immigration detention center in the Everglades, surrounded by, you guessed it, alligators. That facility is costing about $450 million a year to run. So is this Alcatraz plan real or just political theater? The administration officials who've been working on it seem to think it's serious. They've made multiple site visits. They've drawn up cost estimates. Bondi and Burgum's visit wasn't just a photo op. They were there to assess the site. But even the people pushing for it admit the price tag might kill the project. $2 billion is a lot of money, especially when the U.S. prison population has actually been declining for years. Do we really need to spend that much on a new prison when existing facilities aren't even at capacity? A senior White House official told News Nation on Friday that the $2 billion figure sounds excessive. They said the final decision rests with the president, but you can hear the skepticism. Here's what I think is really going on. This is as much about sending a message as it is about actually housing prisoners. Trump wants to project toughness on crime. What better symbol than reopening America's most notorious prison? But when the rubber meets the road, or in this case, when the budget meets reality, that symbolism might not be worth $2 billion. The most expensive option would take years to complete. They'd have to demolish everything, deal with environmental concerns about the whale population in the bay, manage increased boat traffic during construction. By the time it's finished, Trump might not even be in office anymore. So what do you think? Is reopening Alcatraz worth billions of taxpayer dollars? Or should it stay what it is now, a museum that teaches us about our past while bringing millions of tourist dollars into San Francisco? The administration says they need more study before making a final decision. But one thing's for sure, this story isn't going away anytime soon. With Bondi and Burgum's visit, Trump has taken a concrete step toward making this controversial plan a reality. Whether it actually happens, well, that might depend on whether $2 billion is too high a price for symbolism. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.